Record.
It's just a natural disaster-prone country. You got tornadoes, wildfires, even freaking volcanoes on rare occasions. But out of all the natural disasters, one in particular rises above the rest. Hurricanes are by far the costliest, most destructive, and deadliest natural disasters on record here in the U.S. Well, at least until the next asteroid impact. And today we're going over the top 10 worst historic hurricanes. We'll be looking at 3 factors to determine these ratings: cost, death toll, and power. And we're starting the list with number 10, the very recent Hurricane Ian that spanned from September 23rd to October 1st in 2022. Hurricane Ian was, at its peak, a Category 5 major hurricane with a minimum barometric pressure of 937 millibars. Peak wind speeds from Ian measured in the 160 mile per hour range. Initially forming over the Caribbean Sea, Hurricane Ian would make landfall as a Category 3 hurricane over western Cuba on September 27th, where 5 fatalities would occur. After passing over Cuba, Ian would strengthen to a Category 5 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. As it slowly approached the U.S. mainland, the hurricane weakened to a Category 4 right before striking southwest Florida on September 28th. And then tore its way all the way across the Florida Peninsula to the Atlantic, where it would then swing back around, striking the coast of South Carolina near the
shockwave, bro.
That was not done.
Damn, that shit is annoying.
The hurricane hit my state in Florida. Crazy.
September 3 is a much weaker Category 1 hurricane. Overall, Hurricane Ian caused a total of $117 million worth of damage, making it the 3rd costliest hurricane of all time. And while Ian did cause some damage in the Carolinas and in Cuba, we really need to focus on one state in particular, and that is Florida, because it was here that by far the worst damage occurred. The hurricane claimed 161 lives, but 150 of these deaths occurred in Florida alone. The city of Fort Myers and its surrounding suburbs in Lee County saw 72
bro. I
deaths.
swear to God, man.
That's how hurricanes, bro. You get up, bro.
This high death toll was caused by a variety of factors. One being the 15-foot storm surge that flowed onto Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel Island, and Boiler Springs. The flooding destroyed 52,000 buildings, and it even caused the Sanibel Causeway to collapse, cutting off road access to the island. And it wasn't just the coast of Florida that was heavily affected. Large amounts of rainfall caused major inland flooding, and there were even several tornadoes spawned, particularly in southern Florida near Miami. Due to the significance of the storm, the name Ian has been retired by the World Meteorological Organization. Moving on to number 9.
They gonna retire hurricane names? Wow. Don't get it.
Hurricane Camille. Forming on August 14th, 1969 and lasting until the 22nd, Camille would peak as a Category 5 major hurricane with a minimum barometric low pressure reading of 900 millibars, making it one of the strongest hurricanes on today's list. This hurricane featured wind speeds near 175 miles per hour. It also featured a very similar path to so many infamous Atlantic hurricanes, forming in the Caribbean Sea and then moving up towards the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf Coast of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Florida. While hurricane formation was slow at first, environmental factors such as a warm environment and moisture over the Gulf of Mexico allowed Camille to quickly strengthen to a strong Category 5 hurricane with wind speeds near 170 miles per hour. Forecasters initially thought that Camille would head towards the east, towards Florida, similar to Ian in the last entry. However, they would be a bit off with their forecast. Here's a chart of the forecasted path. See these lines over here? Those are the forecasted paths of Hurricane Camille. And this line on the far left, that's the path that Hurricane Camille actually took. This meant that a lot of people in Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana.
What happened?
We were watching the stream, man.
Ma?
Just watching the stream.
Were not properly prepared and were caught off guard when on August 18th, Camille made landfall in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi at its full strength, with the wind speeds around 175 miles per hour. These high winds wrecked the coast of Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, destroying thousands of buildings, resulting in the loss of 143 lives in these 3 states. One urban legend tells about a supposed hurricane party at an apartment in Pass Christian, Mississippi, where 23 attendees died and only 1 made it out alive. However, this urban legend has mostly been debunked. There was some good news. Since Camille was traveling at such a fast rate, there was little rainfall on the coast. However, the same could not be said for Virginia. By the time the storm reached Virginia on August 20th, its pace had slowed significantly. leading to huge amounts of rainfall resulting in massive flooding and landslides in Virginia. In fact, more people died from blunt force trauma caused by the landslides in Virginia than those who were on the coast. Overall, 153 people would perish in Virginia, 123 people in Nelson County alone. 21 of these victims were all from the same family, the
Dang.
Huffmans. Hurricane Camille remains the deadliest natural disaster to ever hit the state of Virginia. Overall, Hurricane Camille claimed 259 lives, and due to this high death toll, the name Camille has been retired by the WMO. Number 8 is one I'm sure many of us remember quite well.
Did you
and
actually
that is
slam your
Hurricane
fucking
Harvey
keyboard?
in 2017. Now, while Hurricane Harvey only peaked as a Category 4
Oh, I didn't slam
hurricane,
it.
which is still very strong, the hurricane is tied as the costliest hurricane on record.
Nigga, quit looking at the PC, bro. Look at the video.
$125 billion worth of damage. The storm that would become Harvey first began as a tropical storm near the Lesser Antilles Islands, but would eventually weaken back into a tropical depression as it crossed the Caribbean Sea. It would eventually make landfall over the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, but then suddenly pivot north into the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. These warm waters helped the hurricane to quickly strengthen to a Category 4 strength, with a minimum low pressure reading of 937 millibars. Harvey continued north until it struck the coast of southeast Texas. There's one factor that makes Harvey stick out from the other hurricanes on this list, and that is the insane amount of rain that was dropped on Texas.
I gotta be honest.
Goodness, the amount of rainfall is ridiculous. Look at this radar imagery. Watch this radar loop of Hurricane Harvey. The hurricane makes landfall over Corpus Christi, and then it just stops. Like, it literally just, like, pauses over Corpus Christi. It's
I would be mad as... I would be mad as heck.
DaTraun, what are you watching?
Bro, you can curse, bro.
I can't?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm watching the 10 worst hurricanes in the U.S.
crazy. And then it slowly picks up the pace and slowly moves to the north. Now specifically look at the precipitation over Houston. Oh my word. It's insane. 60 inches of rain were recorded in Nederland, Texas. All this rainfall
60
obviously led to a
inches.
lot of flooding and hundreds of
You
thousands
can look
of
at chat on
homes
your
being
phone.
destroyed. Hurricane Harvey remains the wettest hurricane on record in the U.S.
How
It
did you
wasn't
get
the
the
only
dual monitors,
damaging
man?
factor of
60 inches, that about, what, 4 feet? 3 feet? Hold on, let me think. So, I don't know.
Hurricane Harvey. There were also 22 weak tornadoes throughout the state. Overall, 107 people
22.
would tragically lose their lives in the U.S. 103 of these people were in Texas. Hurricane 7 is actually a weak hurricane, only a Category 1, but before we get to number 7, a quick word from today's sponsor, PDS Debt. Sometimes in life, you need money.
Mona, but why are you still delete?
Chill, bro.
Bro, what you mean? You
Did
playing
you
Fortnite?
just started streaming? Yeah, I just started. So, what made you took this step? Yeah, I'm gonna time you up. Well, you need
What I do?
but stop playing. You really only need a laptop or a PC. Like, yeah, a decent PC, yeah, $700, and anybody can stream. So, that's your dream. Go for it. Mona, I'm gonna tell you up. Keep playing.
What I do, bro?
You put your fucking Twitch link in my videos.
Not. This dude, baby.
My bad, bro. I did
You are
not mean
permanently
to.
banned, bro. Why you ban me?
I didn't mean to.
Perhaps it's school or a home, so you take out a loan. Oh, but then all of a sudden you have
Join
twin
back, Mona.
babies like me, so now you need a larger car, so you take out another loan. And then you decide to take the twins on a
Hey,
vacation,
shut
not
up.
thankfully it's or medical.
Okay. Do not
Nickel
care.
bills to death.
Do not
No, they
care.
were action of their Dodge
Do not care.
Agnes. The store that would
Thank
become
you.
Agnes formed on June 14th, 1972, and dissipated almost 1 month later on July 6th. The path of Agnes is an interesting one. First forming down by the Yucatan Peninsula, Agnes struck western Cuba and Florida as a Category 1 hurricane with wind speeds
That's
near
weak.
80 miles per hour.
But
While weak, the storm
why is it
did
bad,
claim
though?
lives in both Cuba and Florida. But the story of Agnes was just beginning. Hurricane Agnes is interesting as while it was a weak hurricane, it was able to maintain its strength as a tropical storm as it traveled over the United States through Georgia, the Carolinas, and up to New England. In fact, most of the
My
destruction
state,
from this hurricane occurred way up in the northeast in Pennsylvania and New York. The destruction was very similar to Hurricane Harvey, as most of it was the result of loads of rainfall and the resulting flooding. Take a look at this rainfall map, and you can easily see which areas were impacted the most. Virginia saw 13 deaths, New York saw 24 deaths, and Pennsylvania saw
New York
50
got hit by a
deaths. Much of the
hurricane?
flooding crest records in these regions are still
That's
in place
crazy.
today. Some were over 30 feet, which is crazy. That's like entire buildings swallowed up by water, like under the water, and like no roofs
Oh.
peeking out. The flooding was so bad in Maryland that it caused the Gwen Oak amusement park to close its doors forever. Pennsylvania was the most
Forever?
impacted, where 70,000 homes were completely destroyed. Within Pennsylvania, Harrisburg on the Saskatchewan River may have seen the worst damage from the flooding. Some buildings were under 17 feet of water. In fact, one cemetery located at a pretty high elevation flooded, leading to 2,000 caskets floating amongst the waters. Unfortunately, there were also 3 tragic indirect deaths when a helicopter filming the flooding in Harrisburg crashed on June 26. Overall, Hurricane Agnes shows that while you may be far away
Retard.
from the tropics, you can still be at risk for
Bro.
tropical storms.
You go out of your bed.
Moving on to number 6, which is another
Man,
reason.
dude.
What?
You cannot say that, bro.
What can I say then?
I told you not to. I said you can't say the R word.
You cannot say that,
Oh
bro.
my god, bro.
I thought you talking about the N word. Oh my god.
Yes,
No,
you
oh
cannot say the hard R
my
either, bro.
fucking
You can't say the hard R, but you can say bro.
Y'all
Say
can
nigga,
try
man.
to get me banned, huh?
You can say nigga, bro. I'm literally telling you what to say, man.
Okay. So I can't say
You can't call
Okay.
somebody a tard.
sorry.
Somebody,
Sorry, Twitch. I'm sorry, Twitch.
Let me beat my stream real quick. You can't call somebody. Trying to
Call
get.
somebody
I'm getting banned regardless. I don't
the
care.
R
Hurricane.
E T R
This
D
spot
word.
goes to Hurricane
You cannot call
Maria.
somebody a
2017.
faggot, bro. Do you hear
It
me?
kind
Yeah.
You can't say nigger, faggot.
Or the R
Look
word.
at- Oh, you can't say simp either.
Huh?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Are you being dead ass?
Yeah.
Twitch is
Pokemon, I think because of that era Pokemon was popping off. Everybody was saying that.
Oh,
So I was calling her fans and mods that. And like, they banned the word. People getting tired of
in
it.
2017. A Category 5 major hurricane with a minimum barometric pressure reading of 9 be far away in Harrisburg, which is another recent hurricane. This spot goes to Hurricane Maria in 2017. A Category 5 major hurricane with a minimum
Hey, Shimon
barometric
Cake, bro.
pressure reading of 907
Shimon
millibars.
Cake?
This hurricane featured peak wind speeds of 175 miles per hour. The hurricane originated in the Atlantic, northeast of South America. When it made landfall over the island of Dominica, it was already at its peak strength. with
No,
wind speeds
that's
in the
bully.
165 mile per
That's
hour
a
range.
bully, bro.
These are the highest wind speeds ever recorded on the island. 98% of the buildings on the island saw significant damage. Maria dropped large amounts of rainfall, which in turn
remember
led to
my fucking
deadly
account, bro.
landslides. Overall, 65 would lose their lives in Dominica. Now, Hurricane Maria is a bit
Of
different
course.
from the rest of the entries on today's list. Technically, this list is about the worst hurricanes to impact the United States. Hurricane Maria wasn't much of a problem for the U.S. mainland, but it had a huge impact on Puerto Rico, which technically is a U.S. territory. Even though technically they have their own Olympic team. I found that out like
Damn,
literally
Maury went
yesterday.
offline.
Anyway, I wasn't originally going to include them on this list, but
come
it was just such a
back, bro.
tragic and horrific event that I just had to. Maria claimed
Don't worry.
3,059 lives. 2,975
Back
of
to
these
this
deaths
nigger.
occurred in Puerto Rico. 2,975. Maria made landfall in Puerto Rico on September 20th as a Category 4 hurricane with wind speeds in the 155 mile per hour
Oh,
range.
they got
These high
fucked
winds,
up.
along with storm surge, destroyed
My
hundreds
bad.
of thousands
I'm
of
sorry.
buildings. The power grid went completely offline, leaving 3.5 million people without electricity. The Doppler radar was even destroyed, and these are built to withstand some pretty strong winds, like 135 mile-per-hour winds. Hurricane Maria is by far the deadliest hurricane on American soil in recent memory. Number 5. Hurricane Audrey. Hurricane Audrey formed on June 25th and dissipated quickly on June 29th, 1957. While Audrey only peaked as a Category 3 hurricane with max wind speeds in the 125 mile-per-hour range, she still managed to claim 416 lives over the U.S. mainland. Initially forming over the Bay of Campeche,
we gonna stream the GTRP, man? I'm trying to see you know.
Vulnerable
I just
spots,
video.
the Gulf of Mexico coast of Texas, Louisiana, and Alabama.
You'll watch a hurricane that happened in the
From this
past.
list is that when
Yeah,
hurricanes hit
it's
this
a
area,
video.
it's
I'm
almost
reacting
always
to it.
catastrophic. Audrey made landfall at the Texas-Louisiana border on June 26th.
I got
YouTube.
Galveston saw a large amount of the destruction as the storm surge broke through the Galveston seawall, flooding large amounts of the city. One fishing
I'm
ship
streaming,
off
not
the
this
coast with 9 crew
fucking.
members near Galveston
I'm going to
capsized,
PTRP.
killing all
I got
occupants
done
on
with the
board.
video.
As bad
It's
as
10
it was
minutes
in
ago.
Texas, the damage was even worse on the Louisiana side of
Would it
Audrey.
pay for this, bro?
Millions of acres were completely flooded, and the town of
Come on,
Cameron
OBS.
was almost completely
for what?
destroyed by a 15-foot storm surge. In fact, the only building left in
He's
Cameron
nuts.
was the
He's
courthouse.
nuts, nigga.
It was in Cameron where the
Come
majority
on.
of the fatalities occurred. 371
What?
out of the 416 deaths occurred in the city. The parish of Cameron, Louisiana, is a hurricane magnet. In 2005, Hurricane Rita slammed into Cameron, destroying most of the town again. Thankfully, in 2005, pretty much everyone had evacuated. But again, in 2008, Hurricane Ike destroyed 80% of the town. Due to all the hurricanes, Cameron, Louisiana's population dropped 80% between 2000 and 2010.
Thank you. You
One of the
should.
biggest reasons Audrey was so deadly was due to the lack of evacuations. Much blame was put on the Weather Bureau for not properly communicating with the residents on the Gulf Coast. They did warn of the hurricane, but they were just pretty lax about it. This actually all led to the Weather Bureau / United States being sued by residents in these areas in the 1963 case Barty v. United States. The case was unfortunately dismissed. Number 4 goes to the 1935 Labor Day Category 5 hurricane that formed on August 29th and dissipated on September 10th. At its peak strength, the Labor Day hurricane featured 185 mile-per-hour wind gusts with a minimum low pressure reading of 892 millibars, making this hurricane the strongest, most powerful hurricane on record in the U.S. The storm initially formed to the east of the Bahamas. As it headed west towards the Florida Keys, the hurricane quickly intensified to a very powerful Category 5. At this point, it traveled off the Gulf Coast of Florida, up through the Panhandle and over Georgia.
What did pepper mean? This pepper dot. They made
What?
Category 5? I'm lost.
The Carolinas and
There you
Virginia,
go.
and then finally back out into the Atlantic Ocean, where it would eventually
Nothing
dissipate.
serious.
The 1935 Labor Day hurricane
bro.
was not only extremely powerful,
What?
but it was also very deadly, claiming 423 lives.
Like a fucking
The most
retard,
impacted
bro,
were
that's
the
what.
Florida Keys, specifically the upper keys of Long Key and Craig Key, where an 18-foot storm surge
That boy
swept
DaTraun,
over the
man.
islands and the
Dang.
very southern tip of the Florida peninsula. The town of Isla Morada took a direct hit and was completely destroyed. The railroad line connecting the islands to the Florida mainland was also destroyed, preventing aid from responding quickly. Today, situated in Isla Morada, close to the location of the town's post office at mile marker 82 East on U.S. Highway 1, stands a monument that was created by the Florida Division of the Federal Art Project.
Bro,
This memorial marks
how
the
long
location
is
and
this shit?
burial of the ashes of over
Bro,
300
it
victims.
got
Upgrade
7
thousands
minutes
of
in.
I'm not talking about your stream. I'm not talking about that video, bro. I'm talking about the damn scene in Cyberpunk.
Going into the top 3, these storms get much more serious and much more deadly. Starting off with number 3, a
Wow,
hurricane
this
that
shit
we're
over,
all
man.
very familiar with. I'm of course talking about Hurricane Katrina in 2005. It's probably the most well-known hurricane event, and for a good reason. It is tied as the costliest hurricane on record, causing 125
How many times you said this shit, bro? You said it 3 times already.
billion worth of damage. At its peak, Katrina was a Category 5 major hurricane with wind speeds around 175 miles per hour and a very low minimum pressure of 902 millibars. Hurricane Katrina originally
I'm
formed
not
near
fat
the
boy.
Bahamas on August 23rd. 2 days later, on August 25th, it was strengthened to a Category 1 hurricane just before striking the east coast of
That's what they're
Florida.
trying to talk about, bro.
Katrina weakened
I'm
as it
talking
crossed the
Ethan.
Florida peninsula, but once the storm was over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico,
Are you an
it
idiot?
rapidly strengthened from a
Why you
Category
talking to me though?
So are you an idiot?
Ethan said how you so bad at DJRP. I'm not
I
that.
feel like at the very beginning of the stream, bro. You
No,
so
you're
late to see
not.
that shit. You so late to see that.
You know you're not, dude. You seen it 5 minutes ago.
To a Category 5 hurricane in less than 9 hours. The hurricane then headed towards that really dangerous low-altitude coast of Mississippi and Louisiana. On August 29th, Katrina, now a Category 3 hurricane, slammed into New Orleans and the surrounding Gulf Coast. The high storm surge penetrated the various flood protection barriers, flooding 80% of the city. The devastation can clearly be seen on Google Earth. The story of Katrina is really about the failures of the New Orleans flood walls. Like, look at these levee breaches on Google Earth. This barge right here smashed into this levee, destroying it, flooding the entire neighborhood. There were flooded interstates, Walmarts had been flooded, the Superdome was heavily damaged, and there's a lot of drama around the Superdome.
See, this is why I can move to California. I'm tired of hurricanes.
Eventually do like a Google Earth video on Hurricane Katrina, kind of like my old school video, just going over the damage and the recovery. So stay tuned for that. Overall, 1,800 plus lost their lives from Katrina, and 1,577 people lost their lives in Louisiana.
You realize that
That's a huge amount. A death toll on the U.S. mainland like this has not been seen since the 1928 Okeechobee hurricane. Speaking of the 1928 Okeechobee hurricane, that is number 2 on today's list. Very powerful, Category 5 major hurricane with estimated wind speeds between 160 and 170 miles per hour. This hurricane had a minimum low pressure reading of 928 millibars.
How did they even get this footage? Did this guy be cat? Not the hurricane, I'm talking about the footage. Gotta be cat.
This monster hurricane formed on September 6 off the coast of West Africa, way further away than any of the other previous entries. You might be wondering, how on earth were we able to track a hurricane in 1928? Well, it's because there were ships throughout the Atlantic that tracked the storm's progress. As the storm crossed the Atlantic and approached the Lesser Antilles Islands, it rapidly strengthened to what would be a modern-day Category 4 hurricane. The hurricane swung north and struck Puerto Rico, where a wind station measured 200-mile-per-hour winds. However, this rating is disputed and it's believed to be inaccurate. But still, I mean, obviously there were high winds, regardless. The hurricane continued north over the Bahamas, where it would eventually make landfall in southeast Florida near West Palm Beach as a Category 4. The hurricane would then travel inland and slowly weaken as it struck communities around Lake Okeechobee. Now in the Caribbean and the Bahamas,
in the YouTube search bar, look up
lives.
King.
But in Florida, in the U.S., the hurricane claimed 2,511 lives, making it one of the deadliest natural disasters on record for the United States.
Listen to your viewers, bro. Look at you.
Deaths all occurred in Florida. Storm surge mixed with high winds destroyed thousands of buildings near the coast.
What are you talking about, Mona?
But the majority of the fatalities came from the heavily populated southern portion of Lake Okeechobee, where the lake's dike
look how
collapsed.
King this here,
It's estimated that at least 1,800 lives were lost from the resulting flooding. Unfortunately, there are also major.
Hey, that's what they want to watch. Trust.
They got muck.
1928 Okeechobee hurricane. Many of the victims were black migrant farm workers and did not receive proper burials or even recognition. However, thankfully, they would eventually be recognized thanks to people like Robert Hazard, who helped establish proper memorials, as well as African-American writer Zora Neale Hurston, who wrote Their Eyes Were Watching God, a novel exploring the hurricane's impact on black migrant workers. Before we get to number 1, a couple of honorable mentions. There's the 1899 Puerto Rico hurricane that resulted in 3,885 deaths. There's Hurricane Sandy in 2012 with 254 deaths, 150 of these being in the U.S. This was number 11 on my list, and it was actually number 10 for half of the time I was editing this video, but I kept going back and forth. It just barely missed the top 10. Other honorable mentions include Hurricane Andrew in 1993, Hurricane Irma in 2017, Hurricane Wilma in 2005, the Miami hurricane of 1926, and Hurricane Floyd in 1999. But now, on to number 1. Finally, we have made it to the number 1 worst U.S. hurricane on record, the infamous 1900 Galveston hurricane, a tragic storm that claimed somewhere between 6,000 and 12,000 lives. At its peak strength, the Galveston hurricane had a minimum barometric pressure of 936 millibars, with wind speeds in the 145 mile per hour range. Now, we've seen stronger hurricanes, but the damage caused by this hurricane is ridiculous. The storm remained relatively weak as it passed over the Lesser Antilles Islands and Cuba, but like so many other hurricanes, it rapidly strengthened over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. From there, it would strengthen to what would be a modern-day Category 4 hurricane, and then smash into the Gulf Coast of Texas and Louisiana. This same area that we've talked about so much in this video. This is not a good area. Do not live in this area of the U.S.
I won't.
The hurricane continued inland and even remained a tropical storm all the way up till Iowa on September 12th. As you could probably guess from the name, the island city of Galveston, Texas was the worst hit by the hurricane. A 12-foot storm surge swept over the city, flooding it completely, destroying 7,000 buildings. It's worth noting that the highest point in Galveston in 1900 was 9 feet above sea level. So yeah, the entire town was flooded. To make matters worse, the city and much of the Texas coast in general endured 120-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Galveston was supposed to be a huge hub for Texas, a large and very important city. However, after the hurricane, many investors decided to take their money to the nearby city of Houston instead. So Houston became the hub for that area of Texas. While the death toll varies, the most common number is around 8,000, making the Galveston hurricane the deadliest natural disaster in U.S. history. That concludes today's video. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with the entries on this list? What are some hurricanes that you would have added? I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
You too. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next reactions.